I still feel slightly embarrassed doing this, but it's my teenage years, you know, my 14, 15, 16. I met Pete when I was 17, so I think we'll get into a bit more, you know. But these are, I think, as you rightly said, you all said, your years were similar. I mean, if you weren't doing what I was doing, because I live near, you know, London, you were doing something else. We've all got to do it, haven't we? We've all got to grow through those years and find out who we are, really. I did a lot more because Diz lived opposite me, and she was quite a go-ahead sort of girl at the time. I think I was more of a, you know, stay-at-home girl, but once you said to me, do you fancy doing that? The answer was definitely yes. But I wonder, that's what it's made me think about. I wonder, how would it have been if I hadn't met Diz? If I'd have stuck with one of my school friends who, you know, quite honestly left school a year later and was still, you know, weren't going up to London and doing all that sort of thing. How would it have been? We all have those questions, don't we? How would it have been? What would I have told my 14-year-old self? I wonder what you would tell your 14, 15-year-old self. I would have said, ask someone for help. Talk things over. It's easy to say, isn't it? But if you feel, oh, I can't talk to mum and dad, you know, they wouldn't understand. And yeah, obviously you're talking it over with your friends and they're of the similar mind. So yeah, lots of growing up questions, I think. And yeah, just calm down. That's what I would have said. You're wearing yourself out. Well, let's tell you a bit about the news of 1964. In January 1964, a headline read, "Mary Quant dismisses Paris fashion show as out of date." Her designs targeted the youth, especially the mods, who she felt were weary of dressing like their mothers. Quant aimed to create clothing that was playful, modern and affordable. In January 1964, the first ticket collecting machines were installed on the London Underground, while the average wage stood at £16. Yeah, those ticket machines, they made a difference to my life, because before they were being installed, they took a few years, obviously. You just walked through and showed the guy your ticket, but then you had to start putting it in, and because they were new, it was quite the thing. And we used to fiddle the money on the tubes. Anyway, more of that later. That same month, Britain and France agreed to build a Channel tunnel, marking the beginning of a major engineering collaboration. Also in January, £10 banknotes were reissued for the first time since World War II. February brought a wave of excitement as the Beatles landed at Kennedy Airport, sparking Beatlemania in the US. Meanwhile, in March, Radio Caroline began broadcasting from a ship in the North Sea, challenging the BBC's monopoly, and tensions flared as mods and rockers clashed on the beach at Clacton. I never got involved with any of the clashes. I didn't know anybody who did. But I did listen to Radio Caroline, of course. I used to have a little transistor radio, little blue one, and listen to that all the time. Take it anywhere, in the bedroom, under the bed covers, ear pressed, because we could hear pop music. In April, BBC Two made its debut. So we only had BBC One, or BBC as it was then, and ITV. But as it says, April 1964, BBC Two made its debut, with Play School as its first programme, bringing a fresh wave of television for younger viewers. September saw the grand opening of the Forth Road Bridge, the longest in Europe at the time. And by then, Radio Caroline had reportedly surpassed the BBC in listenership. December marked a major shift in British law with the abolition of the death penalty. That year's most memorable quote came from US President Lyndon B. Johnson. "Join me and march along the road that leads to the great society, where no child will go unfed, where every human being has dignity and every worker has a job." I don't think that Lyndon B. Johnson, however well-meaning he was, could bring that about. Amidst all these historic changes, I was starting college and discovering the London club scene. Ennisc were finally in. Ennisc, my code word for scene, spelled backwards, just in case someone ever found my diary. I was so excited to get the membership. The scene itself was tucked away in Ham Yard, just off Great Windmill Street, and stepping into it felt like stepping into another world. I never took drugs, but of course the London club scene was full of them. Black Bombers, Purple Hearts. True, not like drugs of today. Anyway, I avoided them. I wasn't tempted, and neither was I with alcohol. What I really enjoyed was being out and about, talking to people. I suppose in the end, not much has changed. Here it is, my membership card. The scene. Monday, the 14th of September, 1964. That was the day I started at Pitman's College in London. I can still feel the nerves and excitement. I probably should have focused more on my studies, but how could I, with so many fascinating people around me? Everyone had a story, a different background, and I was thrilled getting to know them all. My world, which had felt so small just months before, was suddenly widening. The daily journey to Russell Square, the clatter and sway of the tube, was thrilling. I was really enjoying myself. But I was so tired. I didn't understand why at the time. I just knew I was always drained. I weighed just 6 stone and 13 pounds and watch what I ate. Twiggy was everywhere, and I'd convinced myself I had to be that thin too. I was running on empty. I was rarely home. One diary entry sticks with me. Dad said I treat this house like a hotel. And maybe I did. I'd leave for college early, squeeze onto the packed tube, rush through the day, dash home just long enough to gulp down tea. Then I'd be out again. What does he expect? I wrote. Maybe he wanted me to slow down, which of course I needed to do. I didn't understand that at the time. Every time Diz and I headed out, we'd always ask ourselves 2 questions while waiting at the bus stop. First, does my breath smell? Second, does my bottom show? For that, we'd stand sideways and the other would take a look and say, "No, you're fine." I mean, honestly, we'd only just checked it an hour before whilst getting ready, but it was our ritual. Of course, bottoms do have a tendency to show. It's the way we're made. But our aim was for no curves. Travelling to college, I met a girl who caught the tube at Arnos Grove, the stop before mine, and we always kept an eye out for each other. Her name was Lynn, and she's often mentioned in the media. She went on to become an editor for some major magazines, amongst other things. Pitman's College could have offered me that same kind of future, but I wasn't really drawn to the idea of becoming a career woman. I was pretty inexperienced, having left school early without much guidance, but honestly I'm not sure it would have made much difference. I always loved being at home, and deep down I think that's what I truly wanted, a happy home life of my own. I became friends with a girl at college named Pam. She lived in a beautiful apartment in Victoria with her mum and two sisters. One of her sisters was called Penny. She said she spelt it P-E-N-E, short for Penelope. So I started spelling it that way too. From then on, everyone who knew me called me Penny, and even Mum and Dad kindly started spelling my name that way. Anne, who had moved to Ireland, wrote to me and apologised. She said she had to stick with Penny, Penny, and hoped I wouldn't mind. So here we are, getting on, coming towards the beginning of 1965. Yes, maybe if Anne had been around and not in Ireland, she would have told me to slow down. I don't think so. We were just enjoying ourselves.